In this tutorial, we will see how to use Relens to set up a workflow option when you're attempting to track footage shot with a fisheye lens and combine it with flat graphics. In this example, we're using footage shot with the Panasonic Lumix 8mm fisheye on a GH4. We're going to use Relens DEFish plugin. An 8mm fisheye on such a small sensor only uses a small portion of the lens curvature, so this is why there is some curvature, but it's not so extreme. Such a full frame fisheye can be handled with the Relens DEFish. Let's find a frame where we can see the house curvature well, and we add DEFish to our footage. We set the method to straighten. Okay, now we want to DEFish this shot to possibly add flat graphics, or maybe to stabilize the shot. First, let's set the comp size wider to 4500 to reveal more pixels. We can set auto scale to off and scale to lower than 1.0. We can use 0.9 and adjust the warp amount until things look good. I will set output to comp size. I can turn DEFish on and off to see the difference. I'm going to add some additional flowers to the scene using a still of frame 1 only from this footage. First, we need to DEFish the shot, so that would be like the steps in the previous example. Method straighten, set output size to comp size, turn auto scale off, and adjust the warp amount until it looks good. We can copy and paste that setup to the still image of the flowers in another comp. We will add DEFish in again at the end to get the overall fisheye curvature back, so don't worry. Then we want to make new comps from these comps because the tracker doesn't like to track footage that has another effect on first, so we make pre-comps from these layers. We make a pre-comp of the flower pot frame and make a roto mask for the flowers that we will be tracking to our background footage. You can see that I painted in some extra flowers on that still frame in Photoshop. Now let's track the background layer. After using DEFish, we need to make a new comp from this layer in order to track. We are using the point tracker in After Effects and using position and rotation trackers. We also added a null object to give all this tracking info to, so we can use that to parent to our flower pot layer. We track the flowers on the background footage. Now that we have the track points follow the flower pot, we can apply the motion tracking data, the position and rotation, to our flower track null object. For this, we click on Edit Target in the Tracker Tool window and select the flower track layer. Then click on Apply and select X and Y and click OK. Now when you scroll through your clip, you should see the null object follow the flower pot correctly through the shot. Let's jump back to that flower pot layer and see that we made a new project from that layer and made a mask around the flowers, and we're going to pre-comp this layer and then add it to the comp that has the tracker. Alrighty, now we can go to any frame and position the new flower pot where we want it and maybe scale it up a bit since it's closer to us. We now want to parent the flower pot to the null object layer. You can do this by selecting the pick whip in the parent column for the flower pot layer and drag it onto the flower track null object. This will make the flower track layer the parent of the flower pot layer. Now every change in position, rotation, and scaling that occurs on the flower track layer will automatically be applied to the flower pot layer. Since we used motion tracking to make our flower track null object follow the background flower pot nicely during the clip, so will our new flower pot layer. Now all we need to do is turn off the background layer, make a new comp from this comp, and add the original background back in and put it in the background. This way, we're not putting the background through multiple processes and it's back to being its original fisheye self. We need to make the flower pot layer fisheye as well, so this is when we add DEFish back to this flower pot layer and make that method back to fish pincushion to get the fisheye curvature back to our flower pot layer. And now it should match the background. We can make the composition settings back to 3840 by 2160 now. See, I told you I'd put it back. Of course, you can apply this method to any flat graphic as well, and you can leave out the DEFish section that applied to the flower pot layer.